Well, as parents, any of you who are parents out there, we worry about our kids a lot, a lot, a lot. Age and stage, the worries might be different, but we worry about them. For a lot of people, that worry can sometimes transfer over to parents or other family members for lots of reasons. Sometimes it's health, and sometimes it's money. And so we're going to talk about what to do when someone you love is struggling financially, and you have to walk this very fine line between helping them perhaps and safeguarding your own financial well-being. Our guest is Dan Bortolotti. He is a portfolio manager at PWL Capital, and he joins us from Toronto. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Bruce.
You have lots and lots of clients. You've been in this world both as a portfolio manager and a journalist for many decades. What are some examples that you have seen of people trying to navigate the financial struggles of a family member?
Yeah, there's a number of things. I mean, I think the most obvious one, of course, is parents who want to help their kids, and that's a little bit, more common. I think what we often will see though is people wanting to help siblings, perhaps who are less well off than they are, and also even helping their own parents, who they worry might not be as well off financially as the kids are, and I think the first thing I would say about this, just in terms of the advice, is, there's the financial advice and then there's the family and human advice. And I think you will hear a lot of people discourage, you from helping family members if they feel that might make them more dependent, or you might be enabling bad behavior. And all of that stuff is true. And those are concerns that we need to take into account. But at the end of the day, it's up to you really to decide how much you are prepared to help somebody. If you're able to help without putting yourself in financial peril, even if it does, detract from your own finances, that might be the right thing to do. It depends on your own family
Yeah.
dynamic. So
Let's focus on the parent thing for a bit. I'm a Gen Xer. My mom has recently passed. My dad's still alive and thriving, but my generation is really dealing with when it comes to this with their parents. Oftentimes, the information that you have as the kid is incomplete, and parents may be totally fine sharing the information. They may be really not fine sharing the information. What's the right level or the best practice on how much information this current generation should have about their parents' financial lives?
yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's up to the parent really to decide how much they want to share with their kids. But if you get the sense that there is some, problem, some financial problem that the parent is experiencing, and you want to help, I think you have the right to kind of say, look, I want to help you, but you need to be honest with me. You need to be transparent about what kind of situation you're in. And it's really amazing to me sometimes how good people are at hiding things. And they're good about hiding financial situations that they might have found themselves in because they're a bit embarrassed. And that might include, for example, having debts that you don't know about, perhaps having made some really poor investments that they don't want you to know about, again, because they're embarrassed. And, again, if you're saying, well, look, mom, dad, I want to be able to help you here, you're going to need a pretty complete financial picture, because it's impossible to give responsible advice until you understand the situation. So I think the parent would have to be prepared to open up the books a little bit if they're going to expect some help from family members. And only after you have a good understanding of the problem can you come up with a diagnosis and a solution.
So let's assume you want to help, and not everybody does, but let's assume that you do want to help these parents. How do you determine if you can, and the trade-offs that you're making in your own financial life in order to take action? Because for some families, it's like, yeah, totally, we can do that. For other families, it would represent a real burden in order to engage with their parents in that way.
Yeah, so if you're the child in this situation, the adult child, and you want to be able to help a parent, with a financial gift or some kind of assistance, then I think you first need to make sure that you've got a financial plan in place. And I mean one done professionally, not a kind of back of the envelope thing. You really need to understand, if you are going to take some funds out of your own nest egg, are you leaving yourself enough for retirement? And one of the things I've learned in this business over the years is most people really have no idea, right? Like when you ask them, how much do you think you need to retire? Or are you in a position where you could retire in 5 years? They just don't know. And most of us have these kind of rules of thumb that may or may not bear scrutiny. And so, if you're going to help with a financial gift, you do, first of all, need to make sure that you understand what the consequences are going to be for your own financial
Mm.
future.
How do you outline what the boundaries might be of that contribution? Because I mean, there is help that is um, enabling bad behavior sometimes. So I'm going to cut the check for you, but you're still overspending, or you still have an undiagnosed and untreated substance issue, or whatever it is. Are there strings attached? Should there be strings attached?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think you really have to figure out what is the cause of the financial issue. Like if it's poor health or, a medical issue or something like that, then I think you can be a little bit more forgiving and say, look, I'm okay, stepping in here with an unconditional gift. I'm just doing what's right for my family. As you said, though, if it's more of a sort of rampant spending issue, or if there's just some kind of really poor financial management, and hey, I'm going to pay off your credit card balance this month, but you're just going to run it up again next month, you're not really doing any long-term benefit for the parents. So you really do have to figure out what those rules are. And I think the other thing to think about too is siblings, right?
Mm.
And if you have siblings in the picture, are you sharing the responsibility? Because if you decide you're going to financially help a parent and your other siblings are in a position where they could help you and they just have chosen not to, now you're opening up the possibility of resentment and other issues. So, I think open communication in this case is going to be essential.
There is such a spectrum for the quality of relationships that kids have with their parents. I know that I am lucky. For those families in which there has been a fraught history around money or other issues, how do you find a way into these conversations? Because you might be stepping on a landmine.
That is very true. And again, just from experience working with so many families over the years, I've come to understand that what you said is exactly correct. Like, just people have different ideas about money and they have different emotional baggage around it. And I think it's probably fair to say most parents are not going to relish the idea of being in a position where their kids need to help them. There's going to be a little embarrassment and discomfort on that side. But you never know. Some people might just be quite happy to say, maybe they've told themselves, well, you've been very fortunate in your life and it's about time you stepped up to help me.
Mm.
I did a lot for you when you were younger. Like, there again is all these kinds of aspects to the relationship that money is just a symptom of those issues. It's not really the cause of any of the problems. And so, again, I think if you're in a position where you're thinking about helping a family member, especially a parent, you have to try to navigate that the best way you can, understanding that your family dynamic is not going to be the same as other people's. So
Mm.
if other people are offering you advice, great, listen with an open mind, but understand that they might just not appreciate the
Mm.
dynamic in your family, that it's different from theirs.
When it comes to our parents, there is cognitive decline. Potentially. If we're lucky enough to have our parents for a really long time, their brains are not going to be as sharp at 95 as they were at 45. You, as a portfolio manager, you work with it. There's requirements and regulations and all those sorts of things. But I think for some kids, they'd think, wow, it would be really helpful if I could just talk to my mom's person. She doesn't want me to talk to her person. I want to talk to her person. How do kids navigate that to try and fold in the insight of a financial advisor or other professional services that might have an ear to the parent and a way to support them in a very specific and tangible way?
It's a tricky thing to navigate, right? Because, as you mentioned in the financial industry, we have a lot of compliance requirements. And, just for example, if one of my clients' adult children called me up and said, "Hey, I'm worried about mom. Can I have a look at her finances? My answer has to be no, of
No.
course, right? We have to respect confidentiality. So that's why I think it's important, before the cognitive decline occurs. And I appreciate if it's after the fact, there's not a lot we can do. But, as people get older, I think it's really important, first of all, to name what we call in the industry a trusted contact person. This is a new industry requirement over the last few years that we need to ask all of our clients if they want to name a trusted family member who we can at least reach out to and make sure everything is okay if there are any health issues that we're concerned about. It's not power of attorney. We're not giving any access to this person to make financial decisions on your behalf. It's just kind of an emergency contact who, as an advisor, you can reach out and say, look, I had a meeting, with your parent the other day, and I'm concerned that there's a decline because their understanding is not as keen as it was at our last meeting. And then to take it to the next step, if you are comfortable to name an adult child as your power of attorney, that is someone then you are giving the authority to speak to your financial advisor on your behalf. And in some cases, if appropriate, make some decisions as your own decision-making ability starts to decline.
Really interesting stuff. Dan, thank you for your time and insight today. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Bruce. Thank you.
Dan Bortolotti is a portfolio manager at PWL Capital, and he was here to talk about some of the dynamics that can arise amongst family members, in particular when one member of that family is struggling financially.